got a chopper.
What the fuck is up, everybody? It's your boy Zulu, and all my friends are calling me whenever I'm doing something. They're talking to me right now and trying to call me and stuff. So I'm not gonna take too long in this review, but we're gonna be talking about Ghost Recon Wildlands, the Fallen Ghost DLC, which I completed probably like 3 hours ago now, and just to say this, it was absolutely amazing. I'm so happy I played it. That was more enjoyable than most of the story missions I played so far in the main game, the base game or whatever, and I love it. Anyway, I'm going to try and break this down into a quick synopsis for you guys that haven't played it, or maybe you have and you just want to, hear other people's opinion on it. So before we get started, guys, I just want to say Alright, so a lot of you guys were asking for a combat knife animation. The combat knife animation, it did get added to the game, but I'm pretty sure it's just in Fallen Ghost. And the shitty thing about it, although it's cool to fucking stab somebody in the neck or in the head or in the balls sometimes, your character does that. Fallen Ghost is a lot more difficult and has a lot more enemies than in the majority of the base game and Narco Road especially. So the downside of, or the con, I want to say, of doing the combat knife animation is, one, it takes, I want to say, another second, a full second longer than a normal knockout animation would take with your gun in the base game. And you still receive damage while you're in this longer animation. So a lot of enemies around you, a lot of bullets flying, a lot of chaos happening, and the enemies are just a lot smarter in this DLC than other parts of the game, and it's going to take you a bit longer to get out of that animation. There's been a lot of times where I got out of the knife animation and I get down immediately, and it takes 5 minutes for my teammates to come over. No matter what difficulty setting you guys are on, you should know that this DLC is definitely harder, even if you're on a lower difficulty setting. It took me a good amount of time to beat this DLC, even though I was on, I think, regular difficulty. That's the second lowest. It's not the lowest, it's the second lowest. So next up, I want to talk about the enemy types. So the enemy types are one of the main features of this DLC, besides, the different locations and bosses you're going to be fighting. The 4 different archetypes for the enemies you're going to be fighting are pretty dope, and they actually give a lot of variety to the gameplay and how you play the game. They kind of change up the meta. The cool thing about how Ubisoft designed these 4 new design types for the enemies you're going to be fighting in this DLC is that they're basically centered around the idea of countering how you would normally fight the Santa Blanca or Unidad. They counter a lot of the equipment and gear you use and how you use it, like your drone, your thermal, your night vision, all that stuff. They all counter it in their own different ways, and it's a nice change of pace, and you have to start fighting and using or utilizing all your different equipment if you really want to try and outsmart them. It took me a good amount of time to get used to these guys, and honestly, they still whip my ass sometimes, especially the jammer. So now I'm going to break down each and every one of the 4 different new types of enemies we got. Also, after I break down each enemy type that we have in the new DLC, I'm going to show you guys a small clip where I'm facing that enemy to show you how they're different or how they fight you and what makes them unique in combat. Alright, so number 1 is the armor type. The armor type is the most simple to explain. Basically, he has heavy armor plating all over his body, and his only weak spot is his head. If you shoot him in his head, then he's over and done. But just say, for example, you're in the middle of a firefight, like you most of the time are, and this guy sneaks up on you, and you don't realize what type of enemy it is, then he can easily get you down and kill you and your team if you're not paying attention, because, he's a really tough guy, and he pretty much takes on whatever you throw at him, with the exception of headshots and explosives. There's been a couple of times where I've been downed and my entire team's been fucked in the ass because either multiple of these guys hit us at once and we were in the middle of a gunfight with normal enemies, or maybe just one got in between us or he flanked us and we just didn't realize it in enough time. Number 2, the covert ops. So the covert ops they're pretty fucking annoying. I want to say they're pretty bad. Like the the covert ops are definitely more dangerous than armored, and probably the second most dangerous out of these 4 new types of enemies. So the covert ops, basically they have the camo from Ghost Recon Future Soldier, except it's much more efficient. They wear like this black cloth over them and they go camo with it, and I swear to God, you're not going to be able to see them at all unless you just have really good eyes and you can see like the motion difference between the background and them moving around. But at nighttime in the jungle, you are not going to be able to see them move. It has to be like broad daylight and they have to be just like running back and forth. These guys use really good optical camo, cloak, whatever you want to call it, and they use a crossbow. The crossbow hits like a fucking shotgun, and the arrow just sticks in you. Like a couple shots and you're on your ass. Like that crossbow hits like a motherfucker. Also, if you're using your drone, you're not going to be able to spot them, obviously, because they can't be seen. They're using really advanced camouflage.
Thanks.
Alright, next up is One Shot. This dude, so it's an elite sniper. He looks like Deadshot. I honestly thought it was Deadshot the first time I saw him up close. Basically, he's an elite sniper, and he's either, if you're playing on the higher difficulty settings, he's going to one-shot you, no problem. You're going to go down the second he hits you, and there's going to be barely any time from the time his red dot sight gets on you to when he fires. So if you see the red dot sight, bruh, just hit the fucking floor, and you want to make sure you're not standing in front of something that can be shot through, like a wooden box or some dumb shit like that. Because I've done that a lot of times, and I've been hit like straight through the box. He just fucking downed me, just like that. Another thing, if you are planning on skydiving into areas, you don't want to do it too close to the center of the base, wherever your objective is or your mission, because you want to go to the outer part of wherever it is you're about to go, because there are going to be multiple elite snipers all throughout the DLC, and they will one-shot you in the air. Like, no fucking problem. They'll one-shot you and you'll fall like 2,000 feet from fucking the air, wherever your helicopter was that you jumped out of.
Sniper, down! Fucking sniper's got a 0. Shit, we got a sniper! Apache's got you targeted. Get the fuck down!
And last but not least, the most troublesome, if you ask me, is the jammer. So the really annoying thing about the jammer is basically it's like that mission in Ghost Recon Future Soldier when you met the Bodarks for the first time and they were messing with your HUD. So your HUD is going to be having some serious visual delays and frequency issues and things like that. And I'm also not sure, but I think he may be the problem for why you're going to hear audio repeating. But the jammer really messes up all your communications and your visual HUD. So he's pretty fucking annoying. Also, he gets rid of your mini-map and he disables your thermal vision and your night vision. And that shit, oh my god, just talking about it doesn't do it words. You have to run into multiple of these guys to understand how annoying they are. Because if he's around, he's going to be jamming your night vision, your thermal vision. You're not going to be able to look for the covert ops who are invisible, and you can't fucking find them at all without your thermal or night vision. It's like you run into them because you just can't fucking see them in the forest.
Linux are using this antenna as a listening post to monitor rebel radio messages. We're going to pull the plug.
The monitor system is wired up. The monitor system is wired up to a computer unit. Hack in there and disable it, but don't trigger the firewall.
One of the best things I love about this DLC is the fact that it takes place in the jungle. and it really gives you that uneasy feeling of never feeling safe and not knowing your surroundings because you're in a jungle, this deep entrenched like forest like area, and you have no idea what can be around you or who could be around you because there's all this different foliage and trees and all these different things people could be hiding and taking cover behind. And all these enemies, they all wear black and they hide and they're pretty smart, so you're always uneasy after your initial encounter with these guys, and especially them all having their different abilities. You really get that feeling like you're the one being hunted. It's not you, ass fucking the Santa Blanc anymore. Now you have people that are on par with your level, and they have some different techniques and equipment all their own that can make them a threat to you. I mean, it kind of makes you feel like if you guys remember the Predator movie, I think it's 2017 now. Maybe it came out 2014, where all those mercenaries got stuck in the forest and they all had guns, which are good, but the Predator came at him and he had fucking camo and he had like laser gun and he had like this repeating thing and a jammer. It's basically that type of ordeal, so you might want to roll with your teammates and not the dumbass AI, because the AI the AI on your team cannot see the covert ops at all. All they do is fucking trail behind you and hold your hand and get you up when you get down. Like, they are some ass. Like, no shit. Now that we've covered the characters and the setting, what I want to talk about is the story. So, the story this time, unlike the base game, some missions of the base game, and especially Narco Road DLC, which is fucking garbage. The story, which I absolutely love, by the way, is much more serious and dark in tone, and it makes you feel like you're actually playing a game where you're playing as a special operations unit, and things are serious and the world is a bit grim. It's not always fucking everything works out, and some fucked up shit happens in the story for the DLC here. And this is what I like. I mean, it feels like I'm playing a military shooter, a tactical simulator for military, and I really have to think about my actions, and I never know what's gonna happen. There's a lot of real life scenarios that happen in the DLC story mode that happens to some of the AI characters you're helping out, and they give you intel, that you give them intel and help them out. There's a lot of real things that happen, and there's a lot of comparisons that can be made to real life military. So I gotta say, this seriousness and tone and storytelling, this is very much appreciated by me, guys at Ubisoft, fans of Ubisoft, and this is what I expected. This is what I expected, and this is what I wanted from this game when it was first announced at E3. Like, you're in the Wildlands facing off against drug cartels and people that have been, doing all these despicable acts since, the day they were born. They were taught this way. They learned these different trades, and, they're just bad people that, sometimes shit just goes wrong, and you see some fucked up stuff in the world, especially being in the military. So, I mean, the fact that this was serious and, it was just a lot more grim, and things just seemed so much more dire when it came to the situations the ghosts were put in right off the bat. Helicopter going down, I loved it. The tone for this is perfect, and it's great, okay? Now, let's talk about some of the negatives that people were bitching about. I don't really share too many of the same complaints. Honestly, I love this DLC. I don't have that much to complain about. So, number one, people complain about the DLC being not very large, as in the map size. They're like, oh, I only have this small chunk of the map to play on. I mean, bro, they spent 5 years making the base game of Ghost Recon Wildlands. The map, obviously, the DLC isn't going to be that fucking big. I mean, I understand, like, what you're saying. You're saying that you wanted it attached to the base game. I can understand that, but, it is what it is. And honestly, some other people, they said that they felt like it wasn't long enough, but, bro, alright, so I've been playing this DLC since late last night. up until the majority of today. It's 10 o'clock here now, man. I played. It took me a long time to beat this DLC. I mean, I was just hitting missions back to back with barely any breaks, and it took me a day and a half to beat this. Okay, and I was on regular mode, and I was rushing through it. So if you're saying this wasn't long enough for you, I don't know what to tell you, man, because there's a lot of fucking content here. If you roll through this with your friends, your buddies, and you go through and explore the DLC to its full extent, and you get all the collectibles, and you learn about the little lore behind the DLC, and you talk to the characters, and you do all the extra side missions, you're gonna have a blast, and it's gonna give you a worthwhile time, for your money, and it's gonna really make it up to you, because Narco Roll was a disappointment to my grandchildren and everyone after them. Yeah, so especially if you're playing this on a harder difficulty, it's gonna take you a while, bro. So yeah, don't even say this game DLC is not long enough, because that's not the fact at all. Like if my buddies didn't take all day, they weren't at work or nothing like that, I wouldn't have played this, even if it was for YouTube purposes for this review. I wouldn't have played this without them. So I definitely wouldn't have been done by fucking a day and a half. It would take me maybe 3 days. Another one of the big topics for why people were upset with this is because, just like Narco Road, it's segmented from the main game. So you don't carry over your weapons, you don't carry over how you built up your character as far as your skills, your stats, your character customization. So when you come to this game, DLC, you have to build an entirely new character, and you max out on all your stats basically, because the area is tough as fuck. You're gonna need to be. And the customized weapon you had before, it's taken away and it's left in the main game. You're basically starting over with a new character that's buff as fuck with all these different attributes, and he's been upgraded some, and you have to make a new gun and class, blah blah blah. So a lot of people are upset about that. Honestly, I can understand it. You work with that character, you built him up, and boom, here you are, make a new one. But is it really that big of a deal? Because I just grabbed a different gun and I pimped that motherfucker out to where, accuracy was on point, the handling was nice, I can make long range shots, I had a silence. It wasn't that big of a deal to me, but then again, a lot of people have been working on their character, so I understand it to some extent. Really though, you can just make a new character as far as aesthetics, like how your character looks. Just remake them. That's what I did. It didn't take me that long to figure it out. And the worst part about this, for me, the fact that this isn't, the base game and the DLC don't share the same game mode. They're separated is the fact that I think there's maybe 3 or 4 new guns in the DLC, and one of them is a sniper rifle. It's something like DMB. And any gun you get in the DLC does not carry over to the main game, or the base game as people call it. It stays solely in the realm of the DLC, which blows, because I love that sniper rifle. It's basically like a 50 cal, and I can't even bring it back over with me. So when I go back to the base game, I'm gonna have to find a new sniper rifle to fulfill my needs after coming across such a dope ass gun. And as well as those 3 or 4 new guns, they have I think 4 or 5 variants, which are basically pre-customized guns with cool paint jobs done on them that you can't customize at all, but it's kind of alright because they look dope and they have pretty good stats normally. One of the last things I want to talk about is the final mission. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but the final mission was amazing, because even more so than the parts of the DLC story that had the jungle as the setting for your mission where you're playing and you're scouting out and stuff, the terrain and setting for the final mission is really awesome, because it makes you even more of an underdog than you were before in the previous fights and missions. It literally gives you the lower ground, and it's a very long, drawn-out gunfight where you're switching positions, you're flanking, you're moving cover, you and your teammates are utilizing all your different equipment and weapons, and it is a very serious gunfight. It's crazy, and you got all these different vantage points from enemies that they have the advantage over you, and you're just fighting for dire life. I mean, it's like a one-on-one direct confrontation, and they have the advantage because they're in all these key positions around you, and they have higher ground above you, and they have a really, really crazy arsenal of weapons on you in this final boss fight. But by the time it's all said and done, you know, because you were the underdog in this very last fight, you really get this sense of accomplishment that I felt like it was similar to when you beat a boss in Dark Souls, because I felt, you know, just really happy, like I overcame that with my buds, these randoms that I met, and that shit was amazing. It was a great feeling, like driving off in the distance, you know, we could still got people chasing us, but we did the last mission, we took out the last guy, the Colonel or whatever his name is, and then I'm not going to talk about the ending scene, but the ending scene, like the last cutscene for the DLC, I thought it was really epic, and I don't know, I just felt like I could relate to it, I could understand where it was that the ghosts, you know, were coming from when they were talking about the problems of this other country and how they were trying to help these people, but they had to also help themselves. I could really just relate to it after all we had been through, and that sense of accomplishment just kind of carried over, and I got this really warm feeling after, you know, finishing off the story mode and everything. But last but not least, guys, I want to talk real quick about Narco Road. So, being completely honest with you guys, I didn't play Narco Road. I watched gameplay of it, I watched commentary about it, I watched reviews of it, I watched first impressions. I'm not impressed. I don't want to play it. I don't want to touch it. maybe if someone pays me, I'll play it, but probably not still. Narco Road, in my opinion, was tasteless. It has nothing to do with what Ghost Recon was about, and in no way did it reflect what Ubisoft promised this game was about in the trailer at E3 like 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, I don't remember, but at the E3 trailer for Ghost Recon Wildlands, they said this is going to be an open world tactical shooter focused on seamless co-op. Narco Road is a degenerate version of GTA 5 where you are fucking, I don't know, it's like the Fast and Furious or some shit, man. You're driving around, you're racing people, you're getting your car pimped out and getting designs on it, and like it's silly. It has nothing at all to do with a military simulator or a tactical shooter, an open world tactical shooter. It's really stupid. And the worst part about it is that the fact that one of the worst points of Ghost Recon as far as the quality of the game is definitely the driving mechanics. I used to say the flying mechanics, but honestly I just needed to get used to that. But definitely the driving mechanics for some of the cars are better than others, and most of them need work as far as how fast they take off, you know, adding weight to the car, and they're just really inconsistent with the takeoff and the acceleration, all that, and they need a lot more work in my opinion. But you know, if you walk a lot or you fly planes, I guess, you know, that's not too big a problem for you. Like Narco Road, it just became silly when they made the game about street racing and fucking gangs essentially. But this DLC right here, Fallen Ghosts, it's worth the season's pass. It's worth buying. It is worth my money. But all honesty, I don't believe Narco Road DLC should have been in the game, and I don't think it's worth anyone's fucking money if they came here for Ghost Recon. Like, I could have played The Crew, I could have played Forza, I could have played Burnout, Paradise, if I wanted that feeling, that edge, you know what I'm saying? So, you just kind of lost me when you got silly and, you know, fucking Fast and Furious, bad one-liners with fucking Narco Road. But that's all I got to say about that, guys. This DLC right here is worth that extra purchase and that extra game time that you're putting into this game. It's definitely a makeup for Narco Road, the DLC we'll never speak of. But that's all for today's video, guys. I gotta go I keep messing up this video. I gotta go play Ghost Recon Future Soldier with my best friend, and I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video. Peace.